Hey guys, it's Luke Humphrey here, Hanson's Coaching Services. I'm going to talk about the marathon long run. And anybody familiar with the Hanson marathon method knows that this is probably probably the most distinguished thing we are known for, I guess, the 16-mile long run. So um, many of you have probably read the book, but I think it's good to clear up a lot of misconceptions and really discuss why the long run is what it is with our program. So I think you'll get some use out of this, and hopefully take some things with you with your own training. So let's just dive right in. It's not about 16 or 20, and I try to convey this as much as I can. It's really appropriate. It's what's appropriate for your mileage. When you talk to coaches and you read about marathon training in general, it's 25 to 30% of your weekly mileage. But when you get to the marathon, for some reason, it changes quite a bit. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because you are running very far, so the rules are bent a little bit, which I think is fine. But I think that they're almost bent to the point where they don't make sense, especially in certain um, training methods. And those of you who know me know, if you're running 40 miles a week, 20 miles of it in the week shouldn't be your long run. You just take too much off of other things that you can be doing. So, but it's not about 16. It's not about 20. It's about the right amount of mileage for the volume overall that you're doing, but it's also about how much time you're spending on the feet. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second. But it definitely, um, it's not as cut and dry as I think sometimes it's made out to be. So, um, let's first talk about the weekly mileage. So, weekly mileage, you can see here a chart here. 50 miles a week, 25% of your weekly mileage is 12 to 13 miles. 33%, it's 16 to 17 miles. 60 miles a week, you're at 15 miles for 25% of the week. 19 to 20 miles if it's 33% of your weekly mileage, which, and then above that, you're going above, you're talking 17 miles, and then so at 90 miles a week, a 25% uh, a 25% long run would be 22 to 23 miles, and you do see long runs of that distance for sure, but you can see there at 90 miles a week, you're only at 22, 23. So why at 40 miles a week is 20 miles for the long run acceptable? And that's one thing that's really confused me the more that I've looked into this subject. And I get the fact that yes, you want to be prepared for the marathon. You want to be prepared to feel that kind of fatigue. I just think that there's other ways to do it, and that's how our program is set up. There's other ways to do it that are going to allow you to train and really, instead of just surviving from long run to long run. But let's, so you can see here based on the mileage with our program, you're anywhere from 50 to just over 60 miles a week. So a 16-mile long run fits right in that sweet spot of 25 to 30%. I see here at 30, obviously at 33%, you give yourself a little more leeway, but at 25 to 30%, right where you should be, a 16-mile long run is going to fit there. And at 50 to 60 miles a week, I'm talking to a vast majority of people. I'm talking to a lot of people who run marathons. Yes, there's the beginners maybe that are at 30, 40 miles a week. And then you have your higher mileage people. And for those people, a long run is going to be different. But I would say to the lower mileage people, take your time, build up to where you can handle the 50 miles a week. And honestly, by the time you get to that 16-mile long run in our schedule, you are running at 50 miles a week. You might have started at 30, but you've built up to 45, 50 miles a week. So even with that said, you still would be prepared to run a 16-mile long run. Okay, side of this is the time on your feet. And run too short, you don't get the benefits of a long run, right? You don't get that fatigue, you don't get that depletion, those types of things. You run too far, you really kind of push yourself over the edge, right? You're kind of past that point of no return. You're past the point where you're you're doing more damage than you're doing good, and so the long run's got to fit in that, in that window. And this again is where you blend the time and the mileage. So if you're looking at the chart, you see at 7 minutes per mile, a 16-mile long run is going to be just under 2 hours, and at 20 miles you're talking 2:20. So the faster you are, kind of the bigger that window is. Think about this, anything under 90 minutes probably isn't going to give you the benefits in the long run. Anything over 3 hours is really kind of, you're doing more damage than you're doing good. After 3 hours, now your muscle's starting to break down. You really have to make sure you're recovered, several days before you can do anything significant again. So that's why we want to keep it in that hour and a half to 3 hour window. So I'm looking at this chart, and so 10-minute pace, which is a pretty common pace for people, you're at 2 hours and 40 minutes for 16 miles. At 20 miles, you're at 3 hours and 20 minutes. So that means a 20 miler not only is too long for the volume of mileage that you're running over the week, but it's also too long in that time frame. It's too much time on your feet. You're past that point of no return. If you do go 20 miles, now you're going to have to probably take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. Maybe Thursday you can do something significant. You might have to just wait again until the following week to do another long run. And that's where people really get in trouble. And then, are you really training, or are you really just trying to get through from long run to long run to just survive the marathon? And that's really what we don't want to do. We want to get you trained so that you can run your best. So that's it in a nutshell. And that's why it's not 16, it's not 20. You look at the elite program, a 20 miler when we're fit is going to take less than 2 hours, but then again, we're also running 100 to 140 miles a week. So percentage wise, it's even underneath that 25%. So you have to keep things in perspective of what other people are doing. And just because somebody who's running a 20 miler doesn't mean it's good, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just depends on where they're at with their training. So how does it work in our system? And that's key, because that's the biggest thing. When people I guess rip on the program, that's the first thing they rip at. It's, oh, you're only going 16 miles. You're not really simulating what the fatigue is during the marathon. And that's simply not true, because we're also running more mileage over the course of the week than most programs who are doing 20-mile long runs. It works because it's really like the last 16 miles rather than the first 16 miles, because you're not fresh when you go into the 16 miler, right? So I have some notes down here. So Thursday, you're doing a tempo run, which at this point is going to be 6 miles plus, all the way up to 10 miles of marathon pace running. Friday's going to be easy, but it's not like a 20-minute jog. You're talking about 30, 45, maybe even 60 minutes of running. Saturday, you're going to go into a longer easy day, which is going to be maybe 8 to 10 miles, maybe even further, maybe 12 miles on Saturday. And then Sunday, you're going long. You're going to that 16-miler. So you don't have any off days here. You have 3 days, with one of those days being a very significant effort, and the other 2 allowing you to recover from that Thursday run, but it's also making you fatigued for the Sunday long run. You're not 100% fresh going into that. You're not tapered at all, like you would be for a lot of times going into a 20-miler, and that's exactly what we want. We want those miles on your legs going into that 16-mile run. Now, how it works post that 16-miler is you don't have any days off afterward, right? So Monday, you're right back at it with an easy run, which again is going to be at least 30 minutes of running, more likely 45 to 60 minutes of running. And then Tuesday, you're going to have a strength workout, which is going to be another significant effort. So over the course of the last 6 weeks of the marathon training segment, you don't have time to recover 100% to get not only from workout to workout, but from workout to long run. And that's why that 16 miler really becomes a longer long run, because your legs are fatigued going into it. You're not fresh going into this long run. But it's also that's one of the things I have down here is it's also manageable because 50% of that mileage isn't coming from one run. It's spread out over the whole week. So but the nice thing is not only are you able to get that a long run that is going to prepare you for the marathon, but you're also getting that marathon specific work. You're spending a lot of time over the course of the week at or faster than your actual marathon pace. So you're doing a lot of significant work on top of just being able to cover the distance. So hopefully that makes sense. And we get a lot of flack on that, but I hope you can see that just because it's 16 miles, it's a little bit less on that one day, but overall, you're still doing plenty of work and plenty of marathon-specific work. Okay, so let's look at the opposite then. Let's look at how an inappropriate long run, why it won't work. So Thursday, maybe do a short tempo runs. Looking at schedules I've seen, maybe that's 4 to 6 miles total at pace. So we're basically doubling that in our tempo runs. You're running twice as much on the tempo run. Friday, usually short, easy, so it might be about 30 minutes of running. Saturday is usually off, so no running at all, which is allowing you to recover. Sunday, you go after that 20 miler and you slog through that 20 miler and you're fatigued. So, like we said, if you're on a 10-minute pace, you're looking at three hours plus, almost 3.5 hours of running on Sunday, which is very significant. Now you've broken down muscle tissue, you've completely depleted carbohydrate stores. You forced yourself into a hole that's going to take a while to get out of. Monday, you have to take off because of that. Tuesday, short. There's probably not a workout. There's probably not an SOS day. It's probably a short, easy run, maybe another 30-minute run. Wednesday is probably either off or another short run. And then going back to that Thursday, you might get in another short tempo run. But sometimes I've seen too where you go 20 miles and then the next week you do an easier run and then the following week do another 20 weeks. So you do 2 20 milers within 3 weeks. So you really cut down everything that you do. The majority of your training is coming from those 2 20 milers, because then you're forced to cut out things like speed, things like strength, in order to be recovered to do those 20 milers. And even if you do those workouts, chances are they're affected because of that 20 miler. So you're a lot more likely to get broken down and injured because of that, because you are depleted, your muscle tissue is broken down. You really, if you do that 20 miler, you really have to make sure you're recovered going into the next round, because that depletion is so great that if you continue to dig that hole, your body's going to break down via bone, which is much more slow to adapt in the cardiovascular system. Same thing with tendon. Maybe some muscle, or you get sick, or you're just overtrained, and you have to take time off, and then you set yourself back even further. So the main point of this, though, is that you really, by focusing so much on one aspect of the training, you really limit what you can do around that. So again, I say, are you really training, or are you just surviving long run to long run in hopes to get to the marathon starting line healthy and not overtrained, not in a hole? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now I get this a lot. I actually just did an interview today and we discussed this, so it's fresh in my mind. And here's the thing. I mean, I totally get. Say you're a masters runner and you're looking to run 2:45, which I can think of a few people off the top of my head that I coach. It's tough. You're working, family, all that business. There's a lot of things going on. How can we adjust and not sacrifice the idea of cumulative fatigue, keeping the balance, things like that? So the first thing I see is most common, moving the long run to Saturday, which is totally fine. There's really not a whole lot of adjustment you need to do here because Tuesday would stay the same, Wednesday would stay the same, Thursday would stay the same, Friday would stay the same, and then Saturday would be your long run, and then what was Saturday will now become your Sunday. So no big deal there, right? And you say, well, I got 2 days now between the long run and the Tuesday speed or strength workout. And that's fine because you're either going to get 2 days there or you're going to get 2 days between the tempo run and the long run. So to me, it's six one, half dozen the other. So not a whole lot of adjustment that you need there. And in fact, I mean, I think that it's even more fatigue in your legs going into that long run. So it really makes that 16-miler seem even longer at that point because you've had a full day less of recovery. But I still don't think it's enough to where you would have to alter what you actually do for your long run. Okay, second thing I see is adjusting the days of SOS days too. Thing I see here is biggest thing is just don't do back-to-back workouts. So if you can't do speed on Tuesdays and you have to move it to Wednesday, then maybe you go Monday easy, Tuesday off, Wednesday speed, Thursday easy, Friday tempo, Saturday easy, Sunday long. Or you go Monday speed, Tuesday easy, Wednesday tempo, Tuesday off, Thursday easy, Friday easy, and then flip-flop your Saturday and Sunday. So Sunday would be your long, and then Sunday would be your easier weekend run. So you definitely can, and you really don't sacrifice anything there. So you definitely can move those days. Biggest thing you see there though is I don't have workouts back to back, and that's huge. You don't want to do things back to back of intensity if at all possible, especially on a consistent basis. If you have to one week, it's probably not going to break you, but doing it week after week after week is probably going to end up digging that hole just as deep. So I would try to avoid that. Another thing you can do, and we talked about this, say you're really crunched for time. Now this, I think you won't gain as much fitness, but it will definitely be better than doing nothing. So, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday are your SOS days. So maybe Tuesday, and you can only do one of these a week. Maybe you go Tuesday or Thursday. I don't think it particularly matters. You do strength, and then the next week you do the long run. That Sunday you do the long run of the same week. Now the second week of this cycle, so this is really a 2-week cycle. 2 weeks, maybe instead of doing the strength on Thursday, you do tempo, and then maybe come back with another strength workout on Sunday. Because if you notice when you follow the schedules, 1 week is a true long run. The second week is a shorter run, but it's longer than what you've done during the week. So maybe substitute that for a strength workout, or switch it around so that the strength is on that Thursday and then the Sunday is the longer tempo run, which might make more sense because you can fit that long tempo in without too much time constraint, hopefully. So I was just scratching this down as I was thinking about it. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, get in touch with us. Hopefully we'll try to post, or remind me, I'll post a blog. I can make a blog post about this. I probably should do that anyway. So, but hopefully that makes sense, and I'll post the show notes too. So hopefully people will be able to see that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Sorry. What I want you to take away from this, so we're kind of wrapping up here. Keeping the long run appropriate for the weekly mileage, huge. 25 to 33%. I know I said 30%. I guess you can sneak that up to a 33% and not sacrifice too much. You're probably only going to get about an extra mile or so, and keep it under 3 hours in duration. So those are your 2 basis points. Don't focus just on the long run. Keep everything in balance. And if you've listened to our philosophy talk, that's key for us. The cumulative fatigue doesn't work when you only focus on one thing, and getting better doesn't improve when you only focus on one thing. You're trying to improve all aspects of running along the way here. And then finally, don't get it caught up in the idea that the long run is all you need. If you're truly looking to just finish the marathon, then yes, the long run is probably the most important thing you want to do. But, a lot of the people who we end up helping, they're looking for Boston qualifiers, they're looking to improve, they're looking to reach major milestones, and whether it's time frame or whatever. In those, you need certain abilities to do that. And when you focus on just doing the long run, you take away from developing those other things like the tempo runs, the strength, the speed, those types of things, improving your overall mileage. All those things are vital to improving as a runner. And we want you to focus on all that because we don't want you to just think about this as a marathon program, but really kind of a philosophy for all training, just tweaked for whatever you're doing. So again, just don't get caught up. It's all about balance and not just one thing. So hopefully that was conveyed well with this. And then lastly, some self-promotion here. Got to do it. I have the link up here for the training supplements, but something we're trying to do because we're trying to put a ton of information. I have this long run alterations on the supplements right now, but basically, we're trying to develop a library of members-only stuff where, we're giving you workouts that, fit the philosophy but are different than the schedule for the masses and different from the ones in the book and things like that. So hopefully, we're building that. We've been building that for a month or so now. We're not going crazy with announcing it, but if you're listening to this, then think about this. This is the 8th of April as I'm recording this. So, if you're thinking about a fall marathon, definitely think about signing up for this maybe in May or early June. Or now, if you want. We're here. We can help. Anyway, that's my shameless plug. So thanks for listening, guys, as always. If you have ideas, stuff you want us to talk about, please send us an email through the contact of the website, hansonscoachingservices.com. I love ideas. You guys give me a ton of ideas to write about, and I need you guys for those ideas so we can get the content that you want, that you need. It's going to help you make your run better. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all later, and have a good one.